Doo-doo-dee. It's Nandi!
Hello friends and welcome back. Before we get going any further, I wanted to make a quick announcement and extend my thanks. I started making content for the first time in my life about 2.5 months ago, and my channel has just hit 1,000 subscribers. That's a massive milestone, and I wouldn't still be here doing all of this without all of you here to support me. So I wanted to thank all of you again from the bottom of my heart. Today's video is largely going to be a patch video where we look over the changes that have come to the game. This was relatively popular when I did it back in February, so here we are again for a repeat. I want to flank the patch analysis with a couple of brief things. Firstly, let's talk giveaways. I ran a giveaway earlier this month for my Dirty Dozen series. The winners for that have been announced, but Paul Taylor has yet to claim his first place prize. Paul, if you're out there, please get in touch so that I can give you your 150 Eldryon shards. If I don't hear back from you in about a week or so, I'll have to roll that prize forward to next month. The next thing to talk about is a giveaway that Snowprint have just started today that coincides with the release of the Space Wolves faction. So here we have the Tacticus website where you can see information about their latest giveaway relating to Ulf and the new Space Wolves. I'll include a link for this in the video description below, but the idea essentially is to promote the Space Wolves and generate some hype and activity around them and their release. If you click on this page and go through it, there are going to be lots of different ways for you to earn tickets and be entered into their raffle in order to win not only in-game Tacticus character shards for the new Space Wolf characters, as well as physical miniatures painted by professionals, as well as some Tacticus goodies. So my code you can see here on the screen, that doesn't get me anything per se, but will get you more tickets in this raffle, and I'd encourage you to go and check all of that out. With the giveaway stuff out of the way, we can now talk about the patch notes. The biggest highlight of the patch is the announcement and release of the newest faction to the game, the Space Wolves. In the game, you can see the character models and skills for the first hero of the faction, Ulf Frostfang. Ulf will be released by the standard 2-week hero release event where you spend energy and complete quests in order to unlock him. His event starts on April 2nd. If the last couple of factions are anything to go by, we will have 2 further Space Wolf characters released this way, and the last 2 characters of the faction will be legendary releases. On this slide you can see Ulf's skills on the screen in front of you. His active is called Great Frost Axe, and this applies an area of effect ice attack. Ice is a new mechanic in the game, and we haven't seen this sort of tile or movement manipulation yet in Tacticus, so it'll be interesting to see just how much the Space Wolves faction capitalizes on this new mechanic. Ulf's passive allows him to retaliate against characters who use their abilities while standing next to him. He also does this retaliate action against summoners. Here we can see the text for ice. It looks like ice stops movement unless you have the flying or unstoppable trait, and it causes units that are on ice to take bonus critical damage. This patch also brings us the release of 6 new elite campaigns. 4 elite campaigns for the Orcs, and part 5 for the Ultramarines, and part 5 for Chaos. The elite campaigns are generally endgame content, but if you're able to unlock it, the drop rates for the items in these sections are better than other campaign modes. There are quite a lot of events coming this patch. We've already spoken about the 2-week Space Wolf character event that will start on April 2nd. In addition to that, we're getting a battle pass for Eldryon, who I think remains the most powerful character in the game. If you are unlocking him for the first time, I would suggest really focusing on building up that passive in order to maximize your damage results in guild raids. We are also seeing the return of the Jane Czar event towards the end of the month. Keep your eyes on my channel as I will be doing another updated video that includes infographics in order to maximize your success and progress in that event. This season we also have 2 3-day character events, more shards for Eldryon as well as more shards for Darkstrider. There will also be 2 runs of Tournament Arena. I've made a calendar for the events this month for you to more easily visualize what is coming. You'll be able to access this and download it through my infographics page on the wiki, and I'll leave a link to that in the video description below. The next section is where we look at the balance changes. The more straightforward of these changes is the Black Legion. Harken, Abaddon, and Volk have all received buffs to their stats, which should make them more survivable, especially for their elite campaign. The more controversial of the balance changes that have come in this patch have been the ones made to the summoners. Viewers and players of the game will be familiar with the fact that for the longest time in Tacticus, the meta was dominated by the big three summoners. This patch sees changes to all three of those characters in an effort to rebalance the game meta, and particularly with the release of On-Shi, whose active was potentially too powerful to have in a world full of summoners. We'll start with Yarrick, who sees the number of guardsmen he immediately summons reduced from 4 to 2. Now overall, there is potential for more guardsmen to be summoned, but that is reliant on other friendly units dying. Yarrick also gets a 25% health buff. Aleph Null is the Necron summoner, and sees the number of scarabs reduce in power and damage. However, in return, they're more survivable and benefit from Aleph Null's healing. Archimatos is the Psyker for the Black Legion, who sees a nerf in the Bloodletter damage, but potentially an increase in their overall usefulness against Psyker characters. As a brief reminder, Tyranid Guild Raid bosses currently count as Psykers in the game. I know that a lot of you have messaged me directly, telling me that you aren't a fan of these changes and are particularly concerned because it devalues your investments over weeks and months. I understand the sentiment that when nerfs happen, it shakes your confidence in investing in characters and the future. I get that, I really do. I shared the same reservations when I saw these changes. However, I've been told by ambassadors in the game that things will play out well, and that they've tested things thoroughly to come to the current system of balance. Time will tell if that is indeed the case, but it's reassuring to also see this new Refund Stone item being introduced to the game. For those of you who haven't seen this yet or are unfamiliar with it, essentially we're being promised an item, a Refund Stone, that will allow us to regain the resources spent on one of these characters if we don't like the ways the nerfs have affected them. I will say that this is a nice touch, and I'm thankful that the ambassadors have fought for this. I wanted to give a particular shout out to Hollow, who is our Pants of Horus cluster leader and also ambassador to the game. The next thing that the patch brings is some updates to gear drop rates. You'll see on the screen how there was previous variability in drop rates of the same item, depending on which campaign node you farmed. That has now been made universal, which makes things a bit more straightforward when it comes to farming gear. As before, the best drop rates are in the elite campaigns, followed by the mirror campaigns, and finally the normal campaigns. There has also been a small boost to epic and legendary gear drop rates. The last bit to touch on is that the devs have just standardized the attack count for several different characters in the game. The game shop has also been updated, and there is now a rotating slot which will let you buy fully crafted gear on Monday to Friday, and that slot will contain experience books on Saturday or Sunday. So I've covered a lot there, and there's a lot for you to digest. I think that a lot of the success of this patch is going to depend on how the changes to the summoners will go and be received. I think there's lots of awesome stuff here, a new faction, new content, lots of streamlined content as well. However, the changes to well-established characters will shake player confidence and possibly make people reluctant to invest too heavily in the future. The other side of that coin is that these sorts of nerfs are necessary in order to keep the game healthy in the long term. So time, I think, is going to be our most useful asset. I'd be interested to hear what you all think, and if you could let me know in the comments below, I can feed that back to the developers in due course. This has already been a long video, so I'll touch on two things finally and briefly. Firstly, thank you again, each and every one of you, for motivating me and supporting me to continue this venture. If you're new to this game and have the ability to use a refer a friend code, I'd really appreciate if you could consider supporting me by using my code. It really goes a long way in helping me to continue to do this sort of content. Secondly, I'm part of the Pants of Horus cluster, and we're a group of fun and friendly players who help each other grow and achieve success on success. Whether competitive or free to play, we can find a home for you if you're interested in checking us out. I'll leave a link to the Discord in the video description below. That's all for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye now.
Doo-doo-dee. It's Nandi.